Me 30 male with my wife, 27 female of 7 years. I want you to tell me not to read too much into this. Okay. So maybe let's start out with a little background. My husband and I first met when I was right out of college in a new city. He swept me off my feet, and from our first date, it was magic. We married 3 years after that, and now we have an 8-year-old daughter. We both work pretty great jobs, and between caring for our and work responsibility, we are both busy people. But he always made time for me and treated me like royalty, even when I didn't do the same. Around the beginning of 2019, I became familiar with one of my coworkers, Nick Hess, about my age, and has a wife and 3 kids of his own. Nick and I started so innocent. We would go out to work outings together and sit close by and talk. I started sitting in his lap, and we had some light touching, but nothing too severe. I guess he reminded me of when my husband and I were young. There was a passion in Nick's eyes that drew me close to him. Eventually, we started sleeping together. I knew during the whole time it was wrong, but I pushed through, never once thinking about the impact it could have on my husband. This morning started off as usual. My husband gets into the shower before me every day, and I snooze before I have to hop into. He mentioned last night that he was going to stop by Costco on the way home from work today, so I grabbed my husband's phone so I could add to the shopping list a few things that I wanted. I know my husband's iPhone lock code, so I went into the Notes app to add what I wanted, and when I opened the app, it opened to a folder with dates listed on it. The dates started the first week of March and continued unabated until last week. I curiously opened one of the dates, and to my shock, it was a diary. I never knew my husband as the type of person to write out his thoughts and emotions. I read through the first couple entries of his diary, and it broke my heart. The diary was all about my infidelity and how my husband was processing it. Looking at the dates that were listed, he discovered my affair about a month after it became physical. I quickly locked his phone and hid it. When he came out of the shower, I helped him look for the phone I hid. My husband has a work phone and a personal phone, so he was unfazed about not being able to find it. He was on a time crunch and left the house with only his work phone. I called off work and read each diary entry. I feel like I may vomit. Almost each entry for the first 3 months he discovered my affair were about how he planned on making her fall in love with me again. He had detailed in this diary the plans he had to make me forget about Nick. He talked about taking us on a week-long vacation, so I couldn't see him. How he bought my favorite flowers and cooked my favorite dish, but I continued to see Nick. As the time went on and I continued to tell lies to my husband, he would write in the diary about how his resolve is beginning to waver, how he is becoming depressed and feels so lonely and unloved. After 3 months, the diary entries became wholly about his depression and how he cries every time he knows I am with Nick. He writes how every night before falling asleep, he has visuals of Nick's body on top of mine and how the visuals make him feel physically ill. He keeps writing in his diary how he doesn't want our daughter to grow up with divorced parents like he did. There is a diary entry from 1 month ago that stopped me in my tracks though. In the entry, my husband talks about how one night when I was with Nick and he put our daughter to bed, he was crying to himself like usual, but the tears stopped flowing. He says that his body finally stopped producing tears for his failed marriage. He says this night was the night the band-aid fully came off. In this entry, he talks about how this 6-month-long process felt like a band-aid on his soul that was slowly being pulled off. And how now the band-aid was finally off, he felt a wave of relief, like he finally got over me. 2 weeks ago, he had another diary entry. In this one, he talks about how wants to arrange to meet an escort girl. He writes that he doesn't know how to start an affair, but having sex with someone other than his wife will be an interesting experience. My husband knows my cheating schedule. He has planned on meeting this escort sometime that I am with Nick. I don't know what to do at this point. I am at such a loss. I am so ashamed in myself. I kept telling myself that no one was getting hurt, that this affair would run its course and life would go back to normal. I never realized the pain and suffering that I put my husband through. I have cheated on him so many times, and he suffered through it. What can I do now? I am never going to cheat on my husband again, but it's probably too late to have this realization for me. Where do I go? What can I do? I know many of you will say some horrible things about me, and that's okay, but please help me save the marriage I ruined. My 43 male, ex-wife, 42 female, wants to come back 3 years after leaving me and the kids. 3 years ago, my wife was planning on cheating with me with another man. I saw some of the signs and caught them sexting. She felt like our life wasn't what she wanted. We divorced and she ended up leaving for the other man. Our 3 kids, now 15 meters twins, 12F, at the time, felt abandoned. I got the house and sole custody of the kids and she didn't make much effort to see the kids. Granted they did and want to see her and were quite vocal about it. Since then, the kids seem to be doing better, but still I feel like they miss their mom, especially my younger twin boy. I've seen my ex-wife a handful of times since then, and I've moved on in the sense that I've slept with other women since then. But I'm not dating and don't plan on it until the kids are all done with high school at least. Recently I learned the man my wife ran off with is now a bankrupt alcoholic abuser. She left him and went back to living with her parents. She came over this weekend when the kids were with my brother at his cottage and talked with me, basically pleading for me to take her back, how she made a mistake and lost her savings, the money from the divorce, her kids. She wants to work towards us getting back together and raising our kids together. I listened to her, but I didn't really say much and she left back for her parents' house. The whole situation has my head spinning. On one hand, I want her back so much, and I think with time, the kids would appreciate having their mom back. The other women I've been with are good, but there's always a feeling of something missing. But also, I wonder if she only came back because that man became what he is today. Even if we get back together, I don't plan on getting married to her. At least not right away, and if we did, there would definitely be a prenup. I'd want her to stay with her parents and slowly integrate herself back into mine and my kids' life. There's also the problem with I don't know if I can even accept her. Part of me looks at her as used goods. I know that's bad. We probably need both couples and family therapy. Thinking about the future right now is difficult. I have so many variables to account for. If she left again, what kind of damage would that do to the kids or myself? I just come on here to gain an outsider's